You're listening to the AFL Unlimited podcast, where we tackle all the hot topics in the AFL and bring you up to speed with everything you need to know in the football landscape. We'll take a look at this weekend's games and have some mixed discussion about what to expect. Let's head up to the box for the opening bounce. Just when we thought things were beginning to shift at the top of the AFL ladder, the Tigers gave the footy world a staunch reminder of why they're the best. A Carlton young gun has taken the leap to excellence, while the Lions and Swans get things back on track. It's been another big week in footy, and with a third of the season almost complete, we're certainly enjoying the ride. This is a podcast by the fans and for the fans, and we want to hear from you. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to engage in our content, and subscribe on Spotify, SoundCloud and YouTube. Welcome boys, how are we?
Good to be here again once more.
Good evening indeed.
It's a very good evening.
It's nice to be here.
There's a few little bits and bobs floating around
there's
this week,
there's a bit of news, and we'll start off first on a bit of a somber note. Frank Costa, who has been a major part of the Geelong Cats Football Club and really just Victoria in general as a businessman and a president, he's passed away unfortunately after a private battle of illness. Any thoughts, guys? Anyone has to share?
Yeah, it's sort of... I was aware that he was unwell, but yeah, it's sort of just... The Cats lost the night before, but it's just one of those things where it puts it into perspective, doesn't it? Such a big figure, and to come out during the week that Geelong, wouldn't exist if not for him, and just what he did for Geelong, the football club, and Geelong as a city, and Victoria, like you mentioned, Chook, is massive. So there's no understating his loss, but a very well-lived life.
A heart and soul figure, definitely. 12 years at the helm, being president for the Cats during a really tough period of time. Geelong were really struggling around the late 90s. So 98 to 2010 was his tenure, as club president. And Langs, you spoke very well. There's a lot of Geelong folk were essentially saying that he's a massive reason as to why they are still here today and becoming the organisation that they have become. So, very sad for him and his family, and all well wishes from AFL Unlimited team, and what a great man for Geelong.
Now this one, if you're a footy fan, you've obviously been over this story. It's been all over the news. Everyone's having a crack at it, especially Eddie and the likes, Koshi, the big battle. I just want a quick rapid fire response from you guys. If you have a couple of comments, feel free. But the prison bars for Port, yes, no, can they wear it for one game?
They should be able to wear it for both showdowns. Definitely their home showdown, and there's some murky waters around the contracts and agreements and signatures and whatnots from what happened in 2007 and 2014 or whatever it was, and I understand that Collingwood are protecting their brand and image, but if the brand and image, it really doesn't reflect. It is a different jumper. It's a similar jumper. If they want to get technical, Hawthorn and North Melbourne wear stripes as well, and if it's not a colour issue, then that's all right. But I think they should be allowed to wear it just in their showdowns, and that's all they're asking for.
Murky waters, more like murchy waters.
Scared
of the merchandise. Yeah, it is.
They should be able to. I think the simplest solution is have that jumper very similar. Maybe I've seen some designs of slight changes to the colours, so I think that's where they can keep their heritage of the Port Adelaide Magpies, as well as not get caught up with the Magpies. I think that's the simplest solution for everyone.
I think there's just been a bit of stubbornness about it, and I think it's kind of silly for what people are saying.
It's really interesting, Chuck, because everyone's saying, what's it up with the Pies, making all about them, and then you see other people say, what's it up with Port Adelaide, making all about them? So, it's... you
if only the Pies fought as hard on field as they did for the prison bars.
Pew, pew, pew!
Ouch, cop that. I'll move on this one. This is an interesting topic. I thought it was worth mentioning. So Dustin Martin was obviously granted leave to go to New Zealand to visit his family and his dad. A lot of people wondering about circumstances of, what if there was a quick rapid lockdown and he got trapped over there? Yeah, well. I'm more interested in the aspect of him going over there and not being there during a game to support his team and his club. I know I've seen in the past, I think of Gary Ablett Jr. when he was absolutely bombarded before people knew the real history behind him leaving during the season. People going, he should be there to support his club while they're playing. Dangerfield, I think, during his injury actually wasn't present for a few of the Geelong games maybe as well, as went on a bit of a leave. Yeah. I'm interested, what are your thoughts? Do you think players should be there at all times. I look at a comparison stake. Reece Matheson, who's playing in the AFL, went and ran water for the VFL team a day later.
It sort of reminds you of the local leagues around town where, if you play for a local club, you're expected to be there at the juniors, the seniors, the resis, and then get absolutely blitzed at the club later on and stay there all night. Yeah. So there's probably different levels of expectation, but I absolutely have no issues with him leaving. He was injured, as far as I'm concerned. That's his time to be there, unless he was attending an official function, I guess, on behalf of Richmond, which he wasn't. The bigger issue for me was how big of a story they made it out of a non-story. Obviously, he's a big name and a star player, but there was ugly scenes at the airport where they were just basically harassing him, and that's what the media do to get a quote out of him. He was just walking straight past him, and just gave him a bit of a dusty fend off. So it's a non-story that's been made into a story, I think. But I think we need to have a bit more leeway for players, allow them to be people.
I was definitely a bit harsh to the media in there and that sort of things. But I was just curious, do you think, Richmond coming off a loss and having a bit of question marks being thrown at them, not having his leadership there to help guide the players during the game? I know they won in the end, but...
Very interesting thoughts there, Chook. Dusty, it seems like the superstars can do what they like, and there are players that are non-superstars that also, they may have leave or, they're not feeling too well mentally, for example, and they don't have to be there every single game. So I think it has been made into quite a big issue out of nothing. But he's a superstar and he's leaving the country and COVID's gone a bit crazy. So
and really, from a mental health perspective, he doesn't get that opportunity to visit his dad or his family all throughout the footy season.
I think the Tigers benefit from him doing that.
Yeah, because he's going to come back and kick 8 against Geelong. So
the Cats won't benefit from it. But Chook, from a leadership perspective, I'd like to think maybe he could even potentially reach out to some of the players, whether that be over a Zoom or a phone call while he's there with his dad. I think the superstars and a lot of players have their own, I suppose, releases, and talk about Ablett and Dangerfield as other examples there. They know what they need to get the best out of themselves, and if Dusty's seeing his dad brings a better Dusty back, that's better for Richmond, I think. So not a big deal. May become a bit of a deal if there was an outbreak, but you can't put all your energy into something that you don't know yet. Yeah,
no, definitely a fair argument there. We talk about Dusty's disappearing act to a disappearance I'm more happy with. The disappearance of my injury curse. I said it last week that, oh no, Harry Mackay doesn't get injured. He's perfectly fine. He's ended up kicking 4 goals, although I'm not sure if the curse may have shifted because I was giving a lot of credit to a certain player at Melbourne, saying how great and important he was.
Was that the week before? Maybe it's like a fortnightly curse
Adam
now.
Tomlinson, after stoking up how important he was to the Demons, has confirmed ACL,
Is it
I believe.
Confirmed? I haven't heard anything official, but it looked that way. There's some pretty sad scenes of him on the bench being quite visibly upset, which is pretty much telling you one thing. And it's a shame because he was pretty maligned, actually, the first couple of years that he was at the D's. And you mentioned it, Chook, that he tapped Simon Goodwin on the shoulder and just said, hey, play me where I actually have played very well at the Giants down back. And he's been doing awesome this year, and a big part of the reason why Melbourne have been doing so well this year and allowing Lever and May to get off the chain.
Yeah, it's a shocking injury for any player, and I suppose structurally he's been really sound for the D's. And,
apart from his knee.
Gosh.
That is controversial, but so that's really disappointing and quite a big blow for them. They may have to move McDonald around. That's been the talk. Yep. So we've got Ben Brown and Wiedemann's been knocking down the door for weeks in the twos.
Well,
so
McDonald was an All-Australian key defender, so
there you go.
Yeah, moves back, and does Wiedemann come in then?
Potentially.
It's sort of perfect, isn't it?
Mitch Brown can get another crack.
Mitch Brown can get another crack and play that. Yeah, he played a couple of weeks ago. He always gives 100%, Mitch Brown.
He gives it a crack.
Speaking about giving 100%, Chook.
Yeah, and speaking about blows, Paddy Buckarton, he's been a bit of a story trying to crack his way back through the VFL after his head knocks, etc.
Is he still on an AFL?
Yeah, he's on Sydney's list.
I don't think he's officially on their actual AFL list. He's kind of on
we're drafting him in mid-season, potentially.
I'm not sure if that's going to go ahead now after he has gone with really something just came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
punching his opposition player in the head, and looks like he knocked the guy out almost, at least for a split second there.
And by guy, you mean tall Sam Menegola in Aaron Black, the Geelong Cats.
Oh, it was Aaron Black, was it? I didn't know that.
No way.
For anyone who hasn't seen the vision and is listening to this, it's pretty much an exact replica of Andrew Gaff on Andrew Brayshaw. Very similar incident where he sort of just one punch to knock away Aaron Black's hand and another punch just fells him. And yeah, it's not a good look. Did you see it, Tiz?
Oh, I did see the vision.
Yeah,
Thanks for tagging me in that.
Yes, I did tag you in that time.
It's not pretty vision.
It's not
at all.
great, is it? No.
And some of the comments just boggle my mind, really. That some saying, "Oh, what did you expect?"
Yeah, the comments that were like,
terrible.
"Oh, the defender, playing with the ball, you didn't think like the ball was gonna get you back." It's like, you didn't expect to be,
Punched
punched
in
in
the
the
head.
face.
No one should be
That's some
expecting a punch in the face.
Barry Hall stuff. Come on now.
That's right.
And then he just casually just ran off.
So yeah, he's been sent straight to the tribunal for it, and you would expect he's probably going to get 6
8
weeks, even
yeah,
potentially. It's
pretty bad.
very going to do him a lot of harm when he's been trying to get back on an
I
AFL
think
list.
Barry Hall got 8 for something like that. So I'd like to think, a long time out of the game.
Absolutely.
I can't believe people were defending it, saying, "What? Oh, you should have expected."
There's no place in that for the
Terrible.
game.
No
But,
place for that sort of thing in the game
oh,
at
well.
all.
Taking a leaf out of your
People
book,
aren't,
Chook, and
people aren't too bright on social media sometimes.
becoming the Segway master, talking about people coming to blows. The Port Power have got knocked out this week.
Out. Yeah, no. So there's been talk. Port obviously have lost a game, and
They have lost again.
people are considering whether they're a bit of a flat track bully, similar in regards to West Coast. The idea that they've always been, home advantages where they're good, but everywhere else they can't really win. What are your thoughts, boys? Do you reckon Port are getting this same sort of stigma?
I brought this point up because I thought it was very interesting that Port obviously had a couple of really tough trips away from home. They've been very good at home and belted sides there, and you can only play who you can play. So I don't know if you can expect to beat Brisbane in Brisbane, and I'm trying to think of the West Coast and West Coast. You can't always be expected to beat those sides, but I think the way that they've lost is, and when they lost last year, they lost badly. So it's something that's still a bit of a problem for Port. And West Coast been heavily documented. Obviously, they've had some really good wins at home, and they've played great footy at home. They just can't translate even 50% of that away from home. So
I was hoping West Coast would just lose this week against Freo just to buck the trend of win-loss, and they just keep winning, smashing teams at home and losing to teams away. But
it's like the old West Coast.
Yeah, well, it really is.
It would have been a real surprise if Freo had actually got up. And it does lead me to one little thing for the agenda here in the news, and it's regarding surprising stats. And we're 7 or so rounds into the season. I want to know your opinions on these little stats I'm going to bring up for you regarding players.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say if I told you the third leader of hit-outs in the game and who it was?
Tom Hickey.
Would you believe Mark Pittonet?
No, I would absolutely not.
Would you believe that he's equal with Gawn for hit-outs, as equal second?
Wow.
And
No.
I believe he's also third for hit-outs to advantage as well.
That's pretty-
So he's
yeah,
absolutely bad.
The signs are
getting
there
talked
for
about.
Carlton. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like you would all know that Hugh Greenwood is leading tackles this year.
Yeah.
He's a tackle king.
Would you believe that he's second for centre clearances in the league,
It's not
as well as tackles?
I believe that more than Pittonet being equal hit-outs for Grundy.
That's pretty
What
good.
about Tom Libba leading centre clearances in the league?
Yeah,
Tom
I
Liberatore.
believe that.
With so many other crucial mids, and he seemed a bit under the radar. He's leading centre
He's
clearances in the
literally
league.
been under the radar, under the packs, getting the ball out.
He loves it. He loves centre
All
clearances.
right, and one more. What about Nick Natanui, third in clearances?
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise too. I suppose he does have the dominance out of the ruck a lot of the time, and if he doesn't hit it out to advantage to a teammate of his, he'll normally just grab it from the bounce and just kick it haphazardly out. But there's some pretty interesting stats there,
Just
Chook.
a couple interesting ones. They were surprising me while we were considering how well certain players have been.
Season,
And
isn't it, so far?
you know.
But speaking about Ruckman as well, as we get on to our untouched moment of the week for round 7 of the AFL. The untouched moment of the week, a player who doesn't really get a lot of accolades is Toby Nankervis from the Richmond Football Club.
Richmond.
It's a 3-time premiership ruckman, which is surprising. You think of some of the other 3-time premiership ruckmen in history, and there's a pretty good list of names there. And even for Richmond fans, I know they rate him, but just lately in the media, I just feel like there hasn't been, it's been very Grundy. Tom Hickey's been talked about this year, and Nick Nat always draws the attention. But just wanted to give the plaudits to Toby because he's been doing. He's only young, so I think he's only 25 or 26, but he's been doing it for a long time. He's always solid, always gets contested marks down the line, and I feel like that's the only time opposition fans notice him is when your team's playing against Richmond and Nankervis takes 10 marks down the line and stops you from getting a stack of goals.
And it's really interesting considering all the attention that they've been giving to when they've been playing like Marlon Pickett and the midfielders in the ruck. They're getting so much attention about, wow, how revolutionary. But they've still got Nank the Tank there to to settle things down.
Absolutely.
He's one of their most important players. Very, very underrated, as you mentioned.
Well, we said it was the end of Richmond last year when Soldo went down and Nank carried them to the flag, so...
Yeah, he did the job there, and he's very frustrating to play against because you kick it inside 50 times, he probably marks it 5 or 10 times. So it's very frustrating. Very good player.
Absolutely. Speaking of Richmond, I believe you're going to take us away for our first game review: the Tigers versus the Dogs.
These segues just keep rolling in.
Yeah,
they find a way. But 22-point victory to the Tigers, and a number of people wrote Richmond off. Mark Robinson.
Because he's definitely listening.
I'm sure he's listening in. But a number of media crew were thinking it might be the end of Richmond. Their dynasty's over so early in the season, and terrible to just write them off. But no Dusty, no worries for the Tigers. They were down by 25 points. They came back, and they've done it time and time again. I've got a few examples here with the 2020 Grand Final. Great day that was. The 2019 prelims, also another great reminder of just that 4 or so goal margin around that half time, and their second halves are just when they're down and out, they always just they go up another gear. They find a way. Lynch became the hero after kicking 5 behinds in a row. Chook?
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're talking about Lynch, he's been getting a lot of hassle recently, especially. Dimmer had to come out and actually defend Lynch, saying, hey, he may not be kicking bags, but he's playing his role, and we'll back him in. Well, yeah, he showed it. He did kick 5 behinds to start off, and people going, well, here he is, old Miss McGee, and then he goes ahead and kicks 3 and basically becomes the hero for the team. So don't always bag someone out. Jack Rewalt, same thing, got bagged out for several years a little while ago, and now he's back in good form again as well. It's interesting.
If people haven't realised that Richmond aren't a team of superstars, they're a team of fantastic role players by now, then they're not watching hard enough. Richmond, on paper, and I want to say this the right way, on paper their list isn't fantastic, but each of those players gives 100% effort every week, and they play their role to 100%. And they've got some superstars, and they've got some great players, but the fact that each one of those players gives their percentage to the team to make 100%, that's what makes Richmond good.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
Spot on there, Langs. Absolutely superb. But yeah, it's obviously kicked 3 in the crucial stage in that third term, and as they do, they just outworked and outmuscled the Dogs in the contest throughout the second half, where it was won and lost, essentially. As I mentioned before, they always have another gear to go, and they win when they need to win. They obviously went down to the D's, I suppose, was it last week, the week before? Last week, correct. But I can nearly guarantee if they play in a final, Richmond will get the job done. Yeah. If it's a cutthroat final or...
They haven't lost to a team twice since
correct.
2017 in
correct.
the same season.
Yep, that's an amazing stat there, Langs.
If you get in the first time, you're not going to get in the second.
That's right.
You almost want to deliberately lose,
when it comes to push comes to shove in the finals, they'll get it done. Cochin's done a hamstring, so the Cats will not have to worry about Trent, but they'll have to worry about Dusty. So a bit of a wrap up of that game. But yeah, Tigers still a team to beat.
They should almost be the Richmond Cockroaches because they just never die.
Yes, legitimately.
Which is a credit to them. But you mentioned the Cats there, Tiz, and we'll keep rolling the punches with the segues. But I really was banking on Freo to do better than what they did, so I could talk about them and pump them up. But I'm going to talk about the Cats because we'll stop talking about them when they stop playing in relevant games. And it was the Swans who got over them here in what would have been a great game to watch as a neutral fan. But obviously the Swans got over the Cats late, 90-88, and 2 goals 6 in the last quarter to 4 goals straight. And we'll talk about the umpiring decisions, but that umpiring decision can still happen. But Geelong could still be up by 9 points and it wouldn't be an issue, which is what should have happened. because they were very wasteful in the last quarter, and that's what actually cost them the game. We'll get this out of the way first. Obviously, the AFL came out and ticked on the the mark, the non-15 metre mark call being not paid. It should have been paid. What were our thoughts? We're all watching it together. What were our thoughts in the moment and after the AFL ticked it off?
In the moment, I think there are a few expletives. A lot of he's won Geelong the game. And in hindsight, well, really, there was 20 seconds left in the game. We probably would have ended up kicking maybe after the siren on a very tight angle. He may not have actually kicked it in the end, but giving him the chance is what mattered. Yep. The fact he didn't actually get his chance to win the game is what kind of cost it.
Yeah, it was a big moment. We were all very excited, jumping up and down, saying, yeah, Cameron's going to win it for us. And then the umpire quickly said, no bingo. But no bingo. But yeah, that decision obviously hurts a little bit. I think Langs, you got some more decisions to go over as well. But Geelong, it was a tale of one team that was very opportunistic and were very efficient and accurate going forward. And Geelong didn't make them pay on the scoreboard.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and you mentioned the other decision there, which was obviously the James Rowbottom would have been a holding the ball. The siren just beat him, I think, but it definitely, when the siren went, there wasn't the criteria to call holding the ball then, but it would have been if the siren went another 2 seconds. But talking about Rowbottom, he kicked an insane goal in the last quarter, right in the pocket on the angle to I think draw the Sydney Swans within 4 points, yeah. I believe, which was awesome. And I think it was Dylan Stevens who kicked it was McInerney who kicked a very similar goal in the same pocket, which was a fantastic goal as well. And the Swans kids were what was pushing them to all their wins in the first 3 rounds of the season, and it was a manic style of play, and they looked like they were just going to beat every team by 60 points. And after the Gold Coast lost last week, the Swans have readjusted themselves and they look much more balanced now, with the balance going between their younger players, between their middle-tiered players like Hayden McLean. Jordan Dawson played really well, and then obviously those senior players are there still. Tom Hickey, just Lazarus, returning from a PCL injury.
How does that
was meant to be out from 8 weeks, but apparently it's all good and you can just come and destroy Reece Stanley. So that was great as well. But yes, I'm not too upset for the Cats. They certainly played better than they have been in the first 4 weeks. But yeah, that's certainly one that's got away.
Holding the ball, yes or no?
On Rowbottom?
Yep.
If the siren went 2 seconds later, yes.
I don't believe it would have been paid, no matter what.
I don't think.
I don't believe it would have been paid at any point in the last quarter. To be honest,
not after Tom Hickey's efforts against the Bombers.
The Bombers, no.
Takes 20 steps.
Yeah.
On the ball, but
no, after you.
I just want to put it on record. Obviously, the Blitzarves non-decision in round 2, and talking about umpiring decisions that cost games, and I just want to say that Geelong had the chance to win the game with their 28 scoring shots, and Sydney had 20 scoring shots, were much more effective. So, whilst these decisions, could have gone either way. Again, if you're relying on umpiring decisions late in games, then you may win or lose some, all depending on how it goes. So it wasn't an umpiring decision that cost Geelong the game.
Definitely respect that call, Tiz. You did call it back when it went in Geelong's favour early in the week, so it's only fair that the sliding doors, you call it the other way back.
So, yeah.
And just one last one to touch on, Tom McCartan has turned into we talked about Paddy before, but Tom is playing very well down back for Sydney, who was trialled forward early for the Swans, but really solid defender now.
He's striking
really
in
solid.
Different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It runs in the family.
McLean obviously cleaned up.
Yeah,
he
cleaned up.
Kick 4. It was a great effort. I mean, missing a bit of Harry Taylor there for the Cats. You're not going to bring him back, but sorry, Harry.
Like 85 years old.
But Sydney would. I suppose as the game wore on, Sydney were just good in the contest, and the way they moved the ball from one end to the other was really good. Cats obviously cashed in early in the first quarter, but Sydney didn't allow that uncontested game that the Cats were playing. So,
absolutely, I agree on all
as the game wore on. Absolutely, so there you
go. We'll have Shorty mail in his votes for the Brisbane versus Port game.
I will be taking a look at Brisbane and Port Adelaide, and it's official. Brisbane are back. Any doubts that we had over the Lions, they've been silenced now after a massive win over Port Adelaide at home, and they just smashed them. 28 scoring shots to 19, and a absolutely belting sort of win in the end. And it was one that I pretty sure we all had 50-50 thoughts about this game, and I actually tipped Port, but look, probably my mistake. Brisbane at the Gabba is always a tough task, and they really do look like they are back now. You know, they beat the Bombers in really good fashion, and we probably thought, you know, good win, but the Bombers are, you know, a young side. This was the real tester, and they passed with flying colours. And no Lachie Neale either, and that was also a part of my thinking. It was maybe levelled out of touch with Boak not playing for Port Adelaide, but McCluggage was outstanding. Lyons is just one of the most consistent players in the game, and they led from the front. You know, Danaher's starting to play some really good footy. So a lot of those things that we thought at the start of the year were going to come through for the Lions, and initially didn't, they're starting to come through now. And I just wonder with Port, you know, they've got to be better than this. I think for a side that wants to take it that extra step further and win the flag, I just feel like sometimes they have a bit of a soft underbelly. You know, they can be amazing at Adelaide, and they do have their days away from home, but that sort of performance, that sort of belting, it just wasn't acceptable. And, you know, of course they misspoke, but Wines did have the 37, and Willem Drew, he really stepped up in replace. And, you know, Gray, Rosie, you know, there were some names that provided their usual output, but it was just no match overall, you know, and it's really something that we got to consider now, because there's a lot of sides up and running. You know, we consider both of these teams top 4 contenders. Melbourne, Geelong, Dogs, Richmond, of course. You know, there's really quite a few sides that would all think they are top 4 sides, but you can't fit them all in there. So this was a telling one. You know, Brisbane certainly flexed their muscle, and I'm sure we might see them meet again, particularly in September, but this was certainly one up for the Lions. Enjoy, guys.
So that was Shorty's thoughts on the Brisbane-Port game. Do we have any points of view on those thoughts?
They are.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it seemed like his consensus was pretty similar to ours. Unlike last week, he actually agreed with our points.
Posthumously.
So yeah, that Port really need to show a bit more away from home.
Yeah.
They, when they get beaten inside the contest, and Ken Hinkley said contest a few times in his press conference, that they struggle a bit. So if you can get Port Adelaide there, you're a fair chance to defeat them. They've really got to tidy up, I suppose, their losses. Obviously, the prelim final, very close game, but of 2020. But so they really need to be a bit more competitive in the games that they are losing, because they're not getting, you know, not just losing, they're losing by a fair bit. So they've got to bridge that gap between their best and their worst.
Brisbane took some hits early in the season, obviously losing Cam Rayner, and they had a dogged first month of football, but now they seem back. Jared Waitley said on radio today that they've arrived in the season as a contender. Oof. Do we agree with that?
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yep, they'll be top 4.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they'll slip into top 4.
They'll
actually.
definitely be finals, but
I think finals, but I think they'll probably be a bit lower. Yeah,
I
think top 4. There's a few teams that are above at the moment. Still,
I think they've gone to that next level of maturity. They were a very young team last year, and they were playing very excitedly with a bit of dash and flair. And I think they've just gone that next level. And some of their senior players have really gone above and beyond. Obviously, Neil's been up and down this year and now injured, but Jared Lyons has been so consistent every single game, and Charlie's picking up, and Danaher's actually starting to look really, really confident and like a real weapon.
Yeah, it's been disruptive. Like you think bringing in a big key forward, you know, it's going to be sunshines, you know, straight away. But you know, Charlie Cameron's been full forward for so long, and it looks like it's clicked together now that Danaher knows his role, where his leading lanes are, and Cameron's hitting the score as well. 8 scoring shots on the weekend, so that was really good from him. So Charles is back, and he's looking the goods. So are Brisbane.
Yep. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. And you speak of Danaher, and I turn to his old side.
Segue
Bombers,
this episode.
Bombers and Carlton, traditional nemesis. And Carlton ended up getting away with it by 16 points. High score still on the menu though. They were both cracked over 100. It's
the highest scoring game of the year.
Yeah, it was really exciting to see. The Bombers started out pretty hot to kick it off. Tipper kicked 3 goals in the first. Just quickly, boys, do you think Tipper's in all-Australian form? He's looking pretty good as a small forward.
Maybe a couple more games where he kicks multiple goals, I reckon.
I reckon Fritsch and Green are ahead of him in the small forward stakes, but if he keeps it up, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely, performing. It seemed any time they needed a goal, he was running through and getting it.
I think it'll be hard with Essendon's form because they'll be up and down, but if he keeps kicking 3s and 5s, yeah.
But yeah, so they definitely started out really well before the Blues kind of made their way back. It then turned into a bit of an arm wrestle there, a bit later down the game before the Blues, this is weird to say, the Blues' maturity against a younger opposition ended up, helping them get over the line. It's interesting saying that because you always talk about Carlton being the young side, this for so long have been the youngsters, but the Bombers youngsters are playing really well, and I'm skipping out of my mark here a little bit, but it's interesting to see that they're playing so well that Zaharakis has kind of lost his spot in the side, being the medical sub.
I think that's fair. He's 31, I think, and he was a good solid player for a long time. At one point he was elite, I'd say, but I think that was a long time ago now, and you'd much rather have your Archie Perkins, McGrath, Parrish having time in the midfield than having Zaharakis playing there. I reckon there's a spot for him in the forward line, but he'll have to earn his spot. Same as Mitch Wallace at the Dogs.
He's on their next premiership side, so play the kids.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. We talk about the switching of the guard and changing of the guard.
Yes.
Adam Sard, that also rhymes, changed sides.
Sides.
He was at the Blues, and Bombers fans would have had some sore throats because they were booing every possession he got, and he ended up getting 21. He was crucial in this team.
For the Bombers too.
His classic outside 50, off the boot. He was really impressive.
And first goal against the Bombers,
he was really impressive, that run and gun style we're used to seeing him, and I think he showed up his old side that I'm still a gun.
Yes.
I'm still good. Yes, a very high scoring game indeed, and some big bags in there as well, Chook.
Yeah, there were plenty of goals kicked in it. It's interesting to say. Hooker kicked a bag of 5 goals.
Yep.
Mackay kicked 4 as well, though. So Hooker's actually been playing really well up forward. He's currently third, I think, in the Coleman medal.
He hasn't been talked about at all.
It does make me raise the point because he's, the traditional swingman type of player. He's played back for a while.
Yeah.
I think they kind of need him up forward in this case. But it makes me ponder, just a quick question, what's the more important role in certain sides? I know for the Bombers, they kind of have missing gaps on either side, and you'd love to have Hurley back in the side so that Hooker could have somewhere, but I think Hooker probably could almost be more important at times in that back line. I saw Mackay got 2 easily, good contested grabs in that forward line to help him kick goals. Obviously, you do the maths, 5 goals and 4 goals, it doesn't do enough, but just his presence in that back line could actually do wonders for that side. I look at Darcy Moore at the Pies where they've been trying him up forward. He actually hasn't really shown at any point how good a forward he is.
Darcy Moore, clearly.
He needs to be in the back line.
They're putting Darcy Moore up forward out of desperation and then not changing anything else. You can't just put a big name forward and hope that he kicks 5 every week. In regards to the first question, it's probably just a week-to-week basis, I think, depending on how tall, if they're coming up against a West Coast, you'd probably want Hooker back in that instance. But I think Jack Henry's actually doing a really good job of being a swingman.
At the Cats.
At the Cats at the moment. He's spoiling and marking in defence. He's keeping the ball inside 50, and he has gone forward. I think he's kicked 6 or 7 goals this year. So
I just think it's interesting because Hooker did play up forward against the Lions a few weeks ago. Yeah. He managed to kick, I think, 3 or 4 of his own, but those Lions key tools, both Danaher and Hipwood, ended up kicking about 5 between them in that game. So I just wondered about how do you levy up? I know it's a tough decision and coaches would be pondering over it all the time. How do you choose your next move? And we're nearly done with the game, but I just wanted to touch on something really important. I think it's on the lips of everybody, and Langers, you've done some posting about it.
Oh, yes.
Rising star turned to, I think, Brownlow contender. Absolutely. I've been hearing. Yeah. Sam Walsh has taken the Carlton midfield by storm. We know Cripps has been down a little bit, but I think Cripps could be at his peak and Walsh would still be the star of the show, the way he's playing.
Yes, well, if you're listening, please feel free to have a look at our Instagram, just to look at the amazing graphic that I put up just before. But no, Walsh has arrived as the best player at Carlton, as an elite midfielder, and he's only, 20, 21 maybe?
21, 22.
Yeah. He is just, you can see it when he plays. He gets a handball away, puts his head down and sprints to the next stoppage and just gets a mark and has a shot inside 50. But yeah, he's just a gun. There's no other way to say it. And I'll let Tyson talk, but then I have a question for you about another Carlton midfielder.
He's putting together a great resume and some amazing numbers, and just taking that mantle away from Cripps, who probably won't like hearing that, being the number one man. But yeah, I wanted to quickly touch on Hooker as well. I think it could even be a point of the Bombers trying to bring the new crop down back as well. You see Ridley, who's he's probably more that intercept mark down back, and he's playing really well. So whether
Ridley well.
Really well, yeah, that's right. So whether they're trying to develop that bit, and I mean, when Hooker's playing this well and third in the Coleman, I think you just keep him there. I think he's obviously probably better down back, but maybe they're developing. So it's a week to week proposition, like the Cats with Harry Taylor in the past.
And to counter that point, they've swung Jaden Laverty back, who's doing really well too. So that helps as well. You mentioned Cripps, and I want to throw this up. I was speaking during the week to Shorty about it, and this might come as a shock to some Carlton fans, but should Carlton drop Patrick Cripps?
Ooh, drop him.
I think I wouldn't do it.
Yep.
I think it's a sensational sort of thing.
Yep.
I think it would purely be there as a theatrics to say, oh, shock and awe, Cripps isn't performing. Mm-hmm. They've already used the injury excuse.
Yep.
So I don't think a dropping, if it was legit, you would rest him.
Yeah.
But I think he's actually kind of performing still. Not to Paddy Cripps, future Brownlow medalist standard, but he's still getting 20-odd touches and kicking a couple of goals. I think he's still crucial to this team as they try to get into their first finals in a while, I think.
You wouldn't want to see it omitted on the sheet. I'd have to see him a bit more closely. If he has been performing... he's got different standards to everyone else because he is one of their best players. Yeah. He's a superstar.
Why I'm asking is just from what I've seen from the Carlton games, he's still performing his role. Obviously not to his standards as we've mentioned, but he's just got this superhero sort of attitude towards the game, and I think that does negatively affect Carlton, which is probably a sensationalist view in its own. But a lot of the time, and he is one of the best at it when he does it right, and we even saw that when he kicked the goal in the last quarter, which pretty much sealed the game for them. He does a lot of the time just take the game by the scruff of the neck, put the team on his back, and just try and do everything at once. And I think that does flow on to some of the other players at Carlton at times. And I'm not labelling anyone in particular. I'm not necessarily saying this is a bad trait of Cripps, but I think we spoke about Richmond before being role players, settling down and performing their role. And I think
the whole team, not one player.
I think if he did come back, because he still doesn't look 100% because of his back, take him out and just get him to reset. See how they perform without him in the team. Get him back and just have him play naturally. It was sort of like when Travis Boak was relinquished of the Port Adelaide captaincy, who turned into an elite midfielder that year. So,
I would bring the point that that's something that probably just a good talking to from the coach, if that's what they want him. If that's what they want from him, could do. I feel like you put him in the VFL or something, complete opposite effect. He'll get 50 touches and kick 4 goals. And he'll be like, well, it looks like I need to be doing this for everyone. And I reckon he just needs to maybe just focus on specific roles rather than everything. So, maybe my job is to get the ball and get it to Walsh, who can kick the ball.
It wouldn't be the worst thing to, I suppose, rest him up and get his body right. Also, from a Carlton perspective, you get judged and lose jobs based on W's and L's. So the temptation to keep Cripps in every week, their best chance of winning is having Cripps in. So then less likely to drop him on that basis.
Get judged. I thought you said get Judd. And I'm like, they can't bring him back. They finally got a midfield good enough for Juddy to get that flag. Maybe he will come back.
We've got a few more games to tick off and just cover for the rest of the round, Tiz.
We sure do. The Pies face another embarrassing loss, and this one was at home to the tune of 4 goals against the Red Hot Suns. GWS taught Adelaide a lesson, getting the win by 11 goals. It was a very big win and a bit of a shock to the South Australia system. The South Australia system. St Kilda answered the critics with a 69-point demolition of the Hawks. We obviously mentioned I had Brisbane in here winning by 49 points. And also the Sydney Swans. They won by a couple of points. North gave the D's quite a fright, but they came up 5 goals short. They're pretty tough to beat over there, and I'm just trying to trying to get my bearings together. West Coast got the job done against the Dockers, as we were mentioning off the top. 59-point win,
In
which
front
is
of
just
no
huge.
crowd as well, which
Yep.
was actually a pretty noticeable thing. And Langs, did you have something that you wanted to bring up about that Freo game at all? Or?
I just was really hoping that Freo would do better than what they had done. They weren't getting spoken about at 4-2, and I really thought they were a chance to clinch this one. I think Luke Ryan out really hurt them, but I would have expected more of an effort because they had been massively improved, and David Mundy's leading the coaches' votes at 37 or 36, whatever he is, which is incredible. But
Like 42, let's be
yeah,
honest.
He's been a great player, and I think West Coast, that a good response, and you would have expected nothing less from him. I think that's why I tipped him, because you can't lose by 97 points, get called weak, and then lose again.
it just
Week
falls
after.
straight back into the flat track thing for me. Though.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't really.
They did what they
it
had.
doesn't really impress me, to be honest.
They did what they had to do, and that until they win away from home,
Yeah.
they're going to still have those doubts on them.
Absolutely.
Big round coming up though.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's some insane games to get us started off, or one game in particular, Richmond versus Geelong, the grand final rematch at the G.
Jeepers.
It's honestly hard
Jeepers.
to...
MC Jeepers.
MC Jeepers. It's honestly hard to go past the Tigers here, and Shorty got a tip up on me last week by sticking to his guns and not tipping against Richmond at the G, so I'll do the same.
Against the beloved. For now, I'll go Richmond as well. It's been a while since I tipped against the Cats, but I want to win this thing, don't I?
Go against so for now, you're going to change later, or what do you think?
I'll see what happens. Maybe halfway through the game, I'll change.
Yeah, well, sounds good. I've gone Richmond as well. Pretty hard to beat at the G, and I don't think we've beaten them since early 2019 when they had heaps of injuries.
Yep. Giants and the Bombers at Giants Stadium, and this has gone, we might talk about this week, but the Giants have gone really under the radar, and they've pulled their season out of the absolute gutter, out of the sewerage pipe.
They were gone.
They've
Ferrari called RACP.
Really well. Yeah. Whitfield and Hogan returning with 4 goals, and
Yep.
Whitfield had 30-something touches, was a bit turnovery, but the Giants for me here.
Hogan's filling a very important gap in this side.
Yep.
They've had guys up forward still performing, but now you've got an extra big body there.
Yep.
It really is helping them a lot. And yeah, it's interesting. The tides have turned. I think a couple of weeks ago we would have said Bombers would smash them, but I think the Giants are performing really well, and Toby Green's a good leader, surprisingly.
They've turned their season on a 5-cent piece, and the Bombers, they're a bit inconsistent and hard to go past the Giants at home as well.
Absolutely. The next one up, the Suns versus St Kilda, and this one's going to be tough. I think the Suns will run out of luck. They've had a couple of good victories as of late, but I think the Saints have bucked their form issues, and Ryder and Marshall back is really big for them. So I'm going to tip the Saints here.
I think that's always been what they were waiting for, was that ruck combo to come back and
Yep.
allow the forward line to gel. It was interesting to see Jake Carlisle get dropped last week, and the fact that they performed so well. But
And not bring bloody Tom Highmore in for Supercoach. Bloody bring him in.
I'll be back in the Saints as well for now.
I'll be going the Saints as well. Yes, a crucial ruck combo. I keep not tipping the Suns, and they keep winning. So
they're
hopefully,
this year's Giants for you.
oh gosh, the Giants and the Pies get me every time. But
Now,
Saints.
North Melbourne are going to be sued for copying Collingwood's striped jumper, but the Kangaroos and the Pies. Now, this one will...
the battle of the bottoms.
Dependent on the result, this might lead all stories on Monday. Collingwood, if they lose to North, there will be massive pressure. And unless something happens this week with the head honchos at Collingwood finally admitting that they're not contending for finals, that they are a developing team, what do we think is going to happen in this one, boys? I'm struggling to tip Collingwood. I'm struggling.
People will call for heads,
Yeah.
and they'll go, "Oh, Bucks has got to go." We've touched on it before. We don't
Yeah.
really think it's
I-
his fault at all,
I agree, yeah.
unless you got some other coach who's a genius in the ranks, which I don't see anywhere to come in and save this side. I'd still be back in the Pies. North have put up a lot of fight. I thought they
Yeah.
had a red hot crack against
Yeah, they
Melbourne
did.
and could have won it. But as we've seen, I think consistently they're a young side and they're dropping
fade
off in the
away,
last
yeah.
quarter. So hopefully, I'd say the Pies will win it for their sake.
I don't have much faith in the Pies, and I've got more faith in North Melbourne at the
Wow.
moment. I know that they'll have a red hot crack, and the Pies obviously they shouldn't have possibly lost to the Suns, and North are going to win a few games this year. And
Yeah.
I think if they're going to get a win, this is probably one that they will win. But it's a toss of the coin. Marvel Stadium helps me out there a little bit as well. If it was at the G, I might Yeah. Might have just gone the Pies, but North for me.
Melbourne and Sydney at the
Swidney.
MCG. Now, remember,
Oh.
Sydney smashed Richmond at the G and seemed to like playing on the bigger grounds this year, but I'm tipping Melbourne here, but this will be a close contest.
I'm tipping the Demons as well. I think they're just too good at the moment, too consistent. Hopefully they don't get a bit ahead of themselves and a bit cocky, as we have seen at times with the young players.
Melbourne at the G, but Sydney Langs have also been a very tough side for me this year. I've tipped against them a few
As we
times,
found
and they keep getting me. But yeah, Melbourne at home.
Next up, we've got the Showdown. Hopefully it's a better result than the one we drove up and went to, but I don't think it will be. I think it might even be even worse, and Port should get the job done here after a big loss against the Brisbane Lions.
Brisbane.
That's an interesting one. I think, Adelaide, turned to a bit of a false start at the beginning there, but I reckon Port will win in the Prison Bars. That's my tip.
They've been nuts, they
Could lose the 4 points and win the game.
Yeah.
Port, for me, they've definitely had Adelaide's measure the last few times and a much more established outfit.
Next up, we've got the Hawks and the Eagles at the MCG. I think we're all going Eagles here.
I'll be going West Coast at the G, yes.
Yep, this will be the game to buck their win-loss away record.
Yep. What do you think, Chook? Oh, he's giving us a bit of a
There's
look.
a bit of a look there.
You're thinking about the Hawks?
Surely not.
I'm going the Hawks.
Whoa,
I'm going the Hawks.
Unbeatable.
You just said how flat track they are, the West Coast, and
all right.
Hawks got humiliated this week, didn't they? But
they did have O'Meara and
they've got
Lingard
power.
out,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But Dogs and Carlton. Now, Carlton are the Bulldogs' bunnies as of late. They keep beating them. Can their improved form the last couple of weeks see them get over the Dogs? I don't think so.
No,
Quick question, quick answer.
the Blues of recent times have probably been a lesser accomplished Dogs side, and Dogs look much more accomplished these days. So therefore, I'll be tipping the Western Bullfrogs.
Bullfrogs.
Now, this next game...
don't worry, I'll
Chook
go the
was-
Dogs too.
sorry,
Whatever.
sorry. Just as we've been recording, there's been murmurings that this next game, Fremantle and Brisbane, is actually going to get moved to Brisbane because of the COVID issues in Perth at the moment.
Still
It is a Fremantle home game at Optus, but I think that will get changed to the Gabba.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm tipping Brisbane regardless.
Yes. But it's at the Gabba. Then.
Whether at home or away, I'm tipping Brisbane.
And same for you, Chook?
Yeah, Brisbane Lions for me.
Absolutely. And that rounds off the week, and hopefully I tip more than 3 this week, which would be fantastic. But boys, that's us done for another week.
Oof.
It was a pleasure being a part of it.
Make
once
sure,
again.
if you are listening, please comment away on any of our posts. If you have any information for us, if you want to have a go at one of our crazy football opinions, please let us know. We love hearing from you.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks all.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. AFL Unlimited, because footy is limitless.